Hi, good evening, and welcome to this first day of the Transit Station 2021 Voice 3 webinar. For the third of the Transit Station Voices series, which has begun this year in 2021, we are presenting a weekend webinar with Zoom performances incorporating projections and sound, featuring 16 international artists working in various backgrounds and genre. And the event has been curated, hosted, streamed, and recorded by Transit Station and its team. Live events of Transit Station in the history took place in London 2003, Berlin 2005, Edinburgh 2006, and in Copenhagen 2010. Now, after 10 years of a dormant event time, Transit Station has this year been inaugurated with the new website, transitstation.org. Over 124 international artists have become part of the Transit Station journey throughout the years. And through the Voice One, which happened early this year, as an international project, there has been an increase of about 50 artists from South America, Mexico, Spain, and India. Voice number one was a simultaneous projection publicly and by different organizations from South America, Mexico, Spain, and India have had a group of artists who were performing simultaneously recording, and then the recording was projected live in all of the other countries. The outset of the Transit Station methodology is to embrace all genre, and live experimentations in the fields of visual and performing arts experienced together as an entirety. And the question, can the event claim itself to become the artwork, is a continuing question and debate throughout the arrangements of new projects. Voice number three, Maneuver, is part of Transit Station's Voice series. This one dedicated to maintaining the spirit of liveness in performance and live art. Still exploring now situations when the live artist is not present in the public space, especially this year in 2021. The maneuver is an orchestration by way of taking the risk to navigate between one's own movement in the presence of known claimed restrictions. We all know what they are at the moment. Those margins of the two-dimensional visual screen and the directive space negotiations does seem to leave the home at this moment and is limited and also extended to the intimate environment, disguised, reformatted, composed, appropriated. And the question to the consciousness remains to release and maintain aliveness. Now questioning the liveness through virtual technologies, when engaging in the process of devising a webinar, it can be acknowledged that it's entirely possible for film and two-dimensional screen imagery that it does influence our sense of reality, at least at one point. Voice number three this weekend features 16 international artists with their performances dedicating projection and sound to create liminal in-between spaces at the edges of perception. The projected image and the composed, directed, and collected digital sound creates the edges which are defined and presupposed. In a live situation, these margins of perception can stay unknown and diffused. And today, on Friday, September 3rd, we welcome M.U.R.T.A from Chile, Joana Carvalho from Portugal, Keike Twisselmann from Germany, and Lee Campbell from the UK. All participating artists are being introduced individually before their performances by Trout's writer, before they start their performance. At the end of each day, we will have time to share observations, reflect and refer to the public at the Q&A with discussions, ending today at approximately 9:45. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I join with Dagmar in welcoming everyone to voice number 3. The 16 international artists participating in the project have devised compelling and imaginative performances for Transit Station's ongoing virtual program. Voice number 3 opens with Hypoxia, a performance by M.U.R.T.A. M.U.R.T.A is Karine Labe Weber, who lives in the city of Concepcion, Chile. She is an architect by profession and works part-time on independent sustainable housing design and construction projects in her own Atmosphere Architecture office. She trained as a ballerina, then studied modern dance, jazz, and contemporary dance. In 2011, she formed Artemisia Danza, a company dedicated to classical and contemporary dance, searching for new languages for movement beyond the established techniques. In 2014, she created the A5 Collective of Visual and Scenic Artists. Since 2016, she has been working on performance projects in the field of visual arts. Hypoxia is a work that expresses the confined and brutalized body dreaming of a bright and free image of itself, exploring the idea that deep within us, there is a light that provides connections and space to help us flow with cosmic energy. Transit Station is delighted to now present from Chile, M.U.R.T.A's Hypoxia. Thank you, M.U.R.T.A, for an absolutely magical opening to Transitstation voice number 3. I would like to now introduce Joana Carvalho. She is a multidisciplinary artist based in Porto, Portugal. She graduated in painting at the Faculdade. I'm going to have to practice these pronunciations. Faculdade de Belas Artes da Universidade do Porto, and is continuing her studies at the Faculdade de Belas Artes, studying for a master's degree in painting. Joana explores the themes of impermanence, birth and death, self-transformation, and the connection between humans and nature and with each other. She develops her work mainly through performance art, painting, and drawing. Duo Avezzo, her performance for voice number 3. In Duo Avezzo, her performance for voice number 3, Joana addresses the vulnerability and its power. The title of the work is derived from do avesso, a Portuguese expression meaning inside out. Duo emphasizes the dual nature of what is inside and what is outside, the I and the other. By turning inside out, the object dissolves barriers between these dualities. The intention is to show the discomfort and beauty of deep self-transformation through self-giving. It is also an ode to self-expression, an almost desperate affirmation of the need to express feelings, to show our soft side, to give more, in this case, all of ourselves to others and to nature, to really open up and connect with others, perhaps the only way to help nature heal and to save humanity from itself. Joining us from Canada to save humanity from itself, this is Joana Carvalho performing Duo Avezzo. Thank you, Joana, for your beautiful and poetical work. I felt I was in the space. Next, I would like to introduce Keike Twisselmann. Keike Twisselmann is an interdisciplinary artist whose scope of work since 1989 includes painting, poetry of the mind, film, performance art, automatic writing, philosophy, politics, and the laws of nature and humanity, noise and silence, and philosophy. Her main fields of output are in painting and performance art. In terms of performance art, Keike asserts that art has the privilege of a certain freedom towards political issues, that so-called non-political art can easily be abused and is therefore sometimes much more dangerous to human comfort than so-called political art. She continues, quote, "All art is political. The only problem lies with our confusion of politics with power. We all perform our roles within our lives. The role of the performance artist is to investigate, reflect, and react to them. At a time at which our future is predicted by our own past actions towards each other and our part in nature, we have created an irrevocable process of no return, no matter how much we call out for change. This performance moves sideways through time and space in shifting sound and slides. No matter how we are calling into the void always projects back on us," unquote. Moving sideways through time and space, this is The Time Machine by Keike Twisselmann.
Transmission, entering time. 1, 2. L'âme ajoute sa voûte, raille non. 10, Maïoun, Chabon, Hai, Nan, Bali, Bali, Samu, Ali, Kolak, Hamu, Hach, Muandri, Talak, Hayan, Hayot, Ua, Haifu, Halon, Halon, Agung, Asu, Agung, Paku, Agung, Kan, Asu, Hala, Haya, Hash, Zio, Hais, Karu, Hayo, Yom, Hasu, Halu, Hai, Hai, Lam, Ren, Balu, Schirm, Hallo, Hals, ja, Hallo, ja, Laum, Hallo, Hals, Scham, Maul, Fallen, Mund, Ohr, Kopf, Stirn, Hals, ja, Hals, ja,
Thank you, Keike. We're just back from the time machine. Mesmerizing. I should next like to introduce Dr. Lee Campbell. Lee describes himself as a born and bred South Londoner who makes experimental films and performance poetry about being gay and working class using barbaric wit and humor. He trained in fine art at the Slade School of Fine Art, University College London, graduating in 2005. In 2016, he received his doctorate. He has recently performed at LGBT-centered online poetry events, including Incite, London Queer Writers, Poetry LGBT, and Disturbance London. He has been selected for Wicked Queer 2021 in Boston, Massachusetts, one of the oldest and largest LGBT film festivals in the world. Forthcoming performances include Cruising Systopia, curated by Nouvelle Organon in Berlin. Leaf uses experimental film and poetry performance to create live, immersive performance experiences using Zoom to maximize the usage of the green screen effect, creating an arresting visual sonic interplay between what is heard and what is seen. The imagery is drawn from Lee's personal archive of paintings, drawings, films, and ephemera from the last 25 years as an artist. For voice number 3, Lee presents Clever at Seeing Without Being Seen.
I discover the same other, creeping, seeping, peeping.
I discover the same other whilst under the cover, creeping, seeping, peeping, covert operations, my teenage fascinations, awkward altercations with non-queer populations, sensations that taught me, if ever they caught me, sighed cautiously, deliberately blur, words that infer derogatory slur. I got very clever at seeing without being seen.
the cover.
I spent longer
Discover the same
looking
other.
at George
Whilst
Michael
under the
than
cover.
learning his song
Discover
lyrics.
the same
I
other.
smuggled
Whilst
copies
under
of
the
Gay
cover.
Times into
Aye,
my
aye.
bedroom
Aye,
just to see guys
Aye, aye.
like me.
Aye, aye.
Gay
Aye,
kissing scenes on TV. My dad trying to hide his discomfort and sometimes not.
Aye, aye. Aye, same other. Aye, under the cover. Aye, the same. Aye, whilst under the cover. Aye, discover the same. Aye, whilst under the cover. Aye. Discover the same creeping whilst under the cover.
Listening and watching the football with my dad, Chelsea in 1996.
Aye.
Dad watched the match. I watched the players. Dad remembers the midfielder's tackle. I remember the midfielder's tackle. Dad remembers the midfielder being shown the red card. I remember the midfielder's red underwear showing. Dad remembers listening to hear who will next play against his team, Chelsea. I remember listening to imagine the midfielder.
With the kick out, Noel Whelan. Now that's the initial challenge on Andy Townsend by Whelan that started all. That's what got Townsend so angry that he had to be turned back. Just to integrate that. Townsend didn't quite want it there, but he's managed to find Staunton. That's a good effort. Oh, Steve Staunton.
Dad remembers telling me that as I liked football, I might like rugby. I remember agreeing. Brighton, 2001, my first gay pub. Queen's Arms, George Street, my heart aflutter, legs like mush. The street was George, my teenage crush. Here's where I learned. Bigger the fish, bigger the tackle. Bigger the fish, bigger the tackle. Let's go back 30 years, 1993. Every cut, every rip in my scrapbook. My school teacher told me to keep a scrapbook, images catching my attention. What happens now if I go back 30 years and look, when me being me, I dare not mention. every tear, every tear in my scrapbook. To my teacher's surprise was my scrapbook. I kept scrapping for 5 or so years. Homophobic eyes fueling my shame, heteronormative culture provoking my fears. Too often too lonely with my scrapbook and tears. Each image with its own special meaning. Images of men for teenage girls everywhere to look. Me being gay in a straight world dreaming. The irony being in the men I was seeing. The more I reveal, the more I conceal. Cutting out bits from that week's smash hits for my scrapbook, my bedroom wall, my private public space, then from the wall into my scrapbook, hundreds of images, but all I wanted to look at was his face. But the handsome man's face was carefully placed in between images from National Geographic magazine. I became a master of collage, those I desired, in amongst images of others and places I had been. I'm always liminal, clever at seeing without being seen. There came a day when I threw away my too heavy to carry, too bulky to manage scrapbook. If I could go back to myself then, what would I say? Lee, you will be fine. In time, you will be okay. Before I destroyed my 5-year scrapbook, I photocopied all 371 pages. Low res, JPEG, mobile phone. My scrapbook now printed out as photocopies for me to touch. To remember. And to rip, because some memories, some pictures, I would rather skip. Too painful to see because they remind me of my former self. And now I am in much better mental health. See me, see Lee. I know what it means to have a body, to be a body, to inhabit this world here and now in a body where I was once criminal for seeing things. For seeing and being seen in ways I do, seeing things in things not meant for queer people. I am a body, a complex historied well of senses, emotions, proximities, and encounters. A body that has learned resilient being, developing tactics of seeing.
Well, this was quite amazing and very, very intense. A visual roller coaster. I would really very, very much like to thank you that you joined today. And after a short interval for everybody, we will come back into the gallery view where all our artists are present, and we would take questions from the Q&A and also reflect upon each other and what has just happened. Thank you. See you in 5 minutes. Yes.
kann ich überall die Stummschaltung.
Ja. Und Galerie und Kamera an.
Welche Kamera?
Alle Kameras an.
Aber das kannst du doch noch machen.
Okay, great. Can you hear me? You can all unmute yourself now. Okay, great. Lee's unmuted. M.U.R.T.A, you can unmute yourself. Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Okay, here we are. Great. Fantastic first day.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Splendid. Absolutely wonderful.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
A great start.
Thank you. It will be great.
The performance is here live as a momentary virtual liveness occurring with simultaneous projection by the artist, which you all have done, explores the phenomena associated with orientation and disorientation. I wrote this beforehand, not knowing what was going to happen. And it fits. Aspects of past and present to maneuver through boundaries of visual representation across the spectrum of technology and virtual boundaries. And that was what happened. It has only been 40 years in 1980 when the digital world began to operate through the internet, followed by mobile devices and social media. Further, the virtual was established around 1978 in the sign of communities, chat rooms, and the multi-user dimension. I would like to ask if anyone has some reflections to each other, what you saw, how you experienced yourself.
It's always hard to know what's happening the other end, and you know, how you're being received when you don't know exactly, well, you can't see the audience. And yeah, I find that really strange because I love looking at people and hearing them and seeing them. But actually, because I've been doing so many of these different Zoom performances, I've actually got quite used to it. So when I've also been now doing the same performance, obviously exactly the same thing in the real world, to actually see and hear people physically for the first time, it almost felt quite violent because we've got so used to this setup in the last 18 months. But yeah, so much to think about.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I am dancer. So the stage is another thing. I think that the public is okay, but I think this medium, these things, the Zoom or the digital, is an opportunity for explore different things. It's a great opportunity. From change some things. It's another thing. It's not the same that they are alive, but it's another thing. It's interesting for me.
And I think it was quite apparent in all of your work that this kind of distance and the solitude that also you felt within your performances was present, you know. And like Lee was saying, that suddenly when you now move back into the liveness or into a situation where the public is present, he said it felt brutal, it felt overwhelming, you know, the close vicinity, which was all that we had before, much more. So it's quite a transition. And I want to say that I'm realizing also that change, we all have experienced change, you know, what is change? We could maybe speculate or theorize 2 years ago about what change is, but it was never that close. the process of change. And I want to kind of re-question the process of change. And I feel at the moment for myself that change takes time, you know, the transition of time feels longer, you know, more intense than it was kind of felt before. And it's also that the mind set is in slow motion.
Well, sorry.
Go. No, you can.
I think actually time comes to a point in that sense, and you know, we call it sort of you know, the sort of Zoom performance is more like a flat performance, really, and it's really truly more to camera than anything else. You always have to be aware what the camera can or can't see, but time itself is kind of completely relative at that point, and more to the point whenever you do a performance over the internet, over the stream.
Do you think that it extends time?
It does to the point where it becomes a non-time almost. You know,
I felt that your performance, it might have been 2 hours, 3 hours, 3 days.
Well, it could have been, you know. It was kind of just experimenting with that tact and notion of, you know, like a different time space kind of thing, sense in that respect. So yeah.
Can I just add something? I'm thinking also that maybe because we've been, well, certainly for me, I've been working online. I'm a teacher, so all of my lessons have been online. I then socialise online. I then now make art online. So for me, maybe when I'm online and I'm watching arts, you know, something creative, my attention span is actually far less than if it was in the real world. I feel that that now there's such a lot of these online, you know, events that you can just become so, I mean, you could literally go from one to another in ways that you couldn't do physically when you're in the real world. So I don't know, maybe I think it is about time, but I think it's also about concentration and attention. And also just the fact of, I mean, the fact that we're looking at something on a screen, for me, that makes me think of, you know, on a very basic level, it makes me think of television. And that my attention span of watching, you know, I could watch a film for an hour or maybe a short program, but when I'm watching something, I couldn't envisage watching something for, let's say, more than, I don't know, 25 minutes, because my eyes would just start to freeze up or I get a headache. So I think it's also about I think it's not just about the content of the work. I think it's also about the medium that we're using and how actually it does really govern the way in which I think it's very liberating, but I also think that it can change the way in which the work is received as well. I guess it comes back to what Marshall and McLuhan were saying about medium is the message, and how, you know, equipment can impact on the way that something is not just made, but also how an audience might receive it as well, which I think is really interesting and vital for what we're doing.
Yes, thank you. Joana, yeah.
I would like to just mention that it's funny, you all mentioned that it's the difference between having a real audience and seeing the audience. And for me, I don't have much experience with a real audience actually, because I started doing performance very recently. So it's funny to hear your experiences. In my case, this performance was adapted, so it was also a very different experience to do it in front of a camera. and it was a bit longer than I usually did it. It used to be a short act, and I think other dimensions came to what this was and what this is, and the fact that I know that someone is seeing me, but I don't know who. It's
take risks then. Sorry to interrupt, but I think that because people can't see you, I almost feel a little bit that when I'm doing Zoom or doing any kind of online platform, because I can't see somebody immediately, there's an uncanniness to that. There's a kind of strange
uncanniness.
I can say things. I feel freer to take risks than I might do actually in the real world.
Exactly.
Really surprising.
That's another thing.
It's interesting you say that, because I was thinking and reminiscing about Joanna's work, and I feel that also there in the image that I was perceiving, her absence of the awareness of the camera was there, which gave her the stillness, and which gave her, or gave the whole piece in a way, a very similar to intensity, because the unconsciousness was present, more present than in maybe other cases where you are very conscious of the camera. You move back and front of the camera, knowing that it's there and it's recording you, etc. But all that was completely absent in your work, and I felt there was a tremendous sense of liberty and freedom still. We are restricted, and all of what we said before, but there's also this moment when to kind of hop off and kind of almost forget those restrictions, and that delivers. I feel the image, though it is two-dimensional, though it is going through the process of technology, I can receive that.
Thank you. It was, I felt like exactly the fact that it was through a camera, and I was not seeing, or I could very well disconnect from the awareness that people were seeing me. So it made me just be there and really forget that I was being watched. I'm absolutely sure that if I was aware, I have no experience with a lot of real people in real life watching me while I'm performing. So I have little experience. Okay. So I'm pretty sure it would be more challenging for me, because actually I feel like my work has been so far performative work, the little one I've done, has to do with that abstraction with what's around me. It has been like that. So it could be a future challenge for me to do it in front of people, actually.
I think you must. I would just like to see if there are any questions from our audience. I don't. No, not at the moment. There is nobody asking. In your personal recollection and your sense of awareness, how do you relate to the emotional content of what just happened?
In our performances just now.
Say it again.
In our own performances or in the other ones?
Yeah, no, in your own, reflecting on yourself.
I have to say something. For me, it's very intense. I am on the camera with a projection, but it's a projection about me. I could interact with myself. So this is really, really power to me. I can't see me in the projection. So for me, it's very strong, this feeling. It's interesting.
Yes. And in some parts, I think you were almost interacting with your projection. You were looking at it. There was a kind of
me in freedom. Me here and me in freedom.
Yes,
it's very special.
Yeah, you were in conversation with that projection, with those images that you saw.
A moment of realization for me, because the performance that I presented tonight, I've done not exactly the same performance, but I've repeated it quite often for the last 6 or 7 months with differences and building up. But just before I did this one tonight, literally 10 minutes before, I wanted to have another element to it. And so when I'm talking about those scrapbook pages and actually the physical photocopies, that was something that I just thought of right at the last minute, 5 minutes.
Ah, okay.
Because that came across.
Yeah. And
so he's just added that in. That's
what, in a negative way?
No, in a good way. No. I thought no.
I didn't know what I was going to do with them, because those photocopied pages are really precious to me.
And did you actually rip them?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, they're on the floor.
Yeah.
I did. I hope you can see it and hear it. But actually, the point I'm trying to make is that the first time that I touched them and played with them, like on screen in front of the camera, was tonight. So that added another kind of a new element for me. So I'm sort of trying to cognitively process actually what happened there. So.
I personally tried to really distance myself even from what I was doing. I never actually ever repeat any performance ever. It's always live and it's always completely unplanned. The only thing I plan is a rough time and the ingredients, but the actual action is completely intuitive in terms of like getting into yourself and doing it as a person, as a performer, not as a persona. So yeah, to me it's kind of almost distilling something in time and space, and compressing it almost like like an alchemy process where you create something like well, I call it almost like a machine, like an engine, where you need like different ingredients, fire, air, and fuel to ignite. So as a performer, you're almost like a lead machine, like a generator, like a light engine, and that can go anywhere and anyhow. So to me, I love the I wouldn't say well, yeah, almost like an uncertainty, like a launch into the unknown.
And I think again, this is a very good point, because the visual transmission really showed that. It was very acute. Exactly what you just said. I feel that it was completely there.
For me, well, I think that the object that was present on my performance, I did it some time ago. It's a latex mask, and it can turn inside out. And it's a self-portrait, and the act that it does, turning inside out, is, well, it talks about personal experiences. So that per se is always makes me relive moments and those personal experiences. But in tonight's performance specifically, I felt like I'm already so familiar with that feeling and with that object, and it's also a good way to process those things that I lived. That my attitude was more like in comfort with the object, and as if I know it so well that I'm there with it, showing other people. I'm not feeling the same things that I used to feel in the first times that I did the object and later that I created the performance. Now I felt like I was more concentrated in feeling the difficulty in breathing, for example. That is one of the things that comes with all the action, and the results of the actual breath, and the fact that I'm breathing so fast. It has really real effects on my body and on my. I get a little bit dizzy, not dizzy, but I was not about to pass out or anything like that. But I get in another state, really, and I get very relaxed and very introspective, I guess. So it's more. I'm not the emotional thing here is not so. For me, it's not so heavy as it used to be before. It's like I made. For me, it's more peaceful now to be with these objects. But the message is still. It's like I want to show what I used to feel, but now I'm more comfortable. It's something like that.
But it's true, Joana, you were not showing, you were totally in tune and being with yourself. And I feel this kind of emotional comfort. I don't like the word so much, but if we keep it, you were able to overcome that. It's, this is why I asked earlier about the emotional impact that it had, that the work that you've experienced had on you, which we're not so conscious of, only maybe afterwards. But you were at that breaking point of your emotional experience during the performance, and I thought that was clear to me. I feel I would like to. Oh, is there something here? There has been a discussion in the chat.
Yes, I've been keeping up with that, Dagmar.
Okay, maybe you can let us share this a little bit.
The attendees have not been seeing the full gallery of artists, but I believe that is now sorted out. I've just had a message from Dimple saying that she can see everyone, and there was a lovely note from Livy M, which I think I will read to you. Livy M. I agree with Dimple. It's fixed now, but it's very interesting what she said here. I can only see the transitstation animation, and it says Christian, blah, blah, blah. This somehow distances me from this conversation. Still, this is like a phone call. This is a phone call because I cannot see anyone who talks, as I can only see the animation. But I don't really know everyone's voice, so at times I'm guessing who is talking. Strange feeling it creates. Even stranger when I hear you reflect on the performances that we just collectively witnessed through this digital platform, seeing and being seen and not being seen at the same time. Perhaps
they want to see us.
Perhaps this stretches the liminal space exactly as it should.
Very good comment, and I would like to close on that comment. And please invite Joana, M.U.R.T.A, Lee and Keike back tomorrow as attendees to witness
Good
a
idea.
very long day ahead. Saturday will be a long day for all of us and very exciting. We will start at 2 o'clock. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
for
Diane.
today.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. That
Thank
was
you.
Very nice.
Thank you so much.
much.
That's 2 o'clock Central European Summer Time.
Yes,
Correct.
yes.
So, okay.
Okay.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. You like this, eh, Lee? Still, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I actually love it. I've been doing a lot of physical performances in the last 2 months, and I can only do what I do on Zoom with the visuals and with the sound. And so I've actually I hated it because I was getting so bored, and now I actually love it.
Can you give me a quick run through, because I think it's just you and me right now. I see Christian's still here. Dagmar's gone, but as long as we're talking, I think Christian will probably keep the stream going. What is your technical cocktail there? How do you do it?
How do I do it? It's really easy. If you go to preferences on Zoom,
yeah, and do your background, right?
Virtual background. It just says add video, and so that's where I've already made a short film with all those images, and then I just put add video. So when I start like that, obviously
Like that.
most people have that, but actually, honestly, Charles, it was by complete accident. Before making this work, I was actually making short films. And by accident, I put in one of those short films into this virtual background, and I was like, oh, that's wrong. And someone said, no, that looks amazing. And so I thought, wow, actually, what an amazing, yes, exactly like what you're doing.